Welcome. Thank you for logging on tonight. My name's Jonathan Coles. I'm a football development officer with Berks and Bucks FA. One of my areas of lead is Charter Standard, and I am also joined by Richard Brandt, who is another football development officer with BBFA, and one of his areas of lead is education, and that's why I've asked him to come on today. So just to go through that housekeeping, this meeting will be recorded. Please ensure that your webcam and microphone are both turned off. That will just improve connectivity. Throughout the meeting, please use the chat function if there are any questions you would like to raise. At the end, there will be a question and answer session where you can unmute yourself and ask it if it's easier to do it that way. And also, if for any reason you don't want to ask a question in this environment, there will also be my contact details, and you can send me an email or give me a call tomorrow morning or whenever to discuss anything that we cover tonight. So again, tonight we're going to be covering Charter Standard for for adult clubs. If you've got adult only, multiple teams, one team, then this is the workshop for you. And over the course of the next hour, what we are going to discuss is the following. What is Charter Standard? Why become a Charter Standard club? How to successfully apply to become Charter Standard? And then finally, any questions and answers. Before I get started, I just want to make sure all the sound is okay. If you're struggling to hear me for any reason, just put it in the chat and I'll try and adjust volume. Richard will be monitoring the chat because when I'm in this mode, all I can see is my presentation. So Rich, if you do get any questions through, feel free to interrupt me, ask them, and I will, of course, answer those questions. The first two I will cover right now, but I am only going to cover them fairly quickly. Hopefully you have an understanding of what Charter Standard is. The bulk of today's meeting is on that third point, how to successfully apply to become a Charter Standard club. So very briefly, what is Charter Standard? Charter Standard, the FA Charter Standard programme, is the FA's accreditation scheme, which is open to all grassroots clubs. It was first introduced in 2001, and the FA Charter Standard programme aims to raise standards in the national game by rewarding and recognising clubs for their commitment and achievements. It is effectively English football's equivalent to the kite mark, with well-run, sustainable clubs with a commitment to quality coaching and respect being recognised. So just at this point, I will just let you know there are actually 3 levels of Charter Standard. What we're looking today is applying to become an adult Charter Standard club, and that is the base level of the programme. You can then look in future years, once you've attained that status, to go on to development and community levels. But in the first instance, you need to attain that adult status before moving on. So we're only going to cover that base entry level Charter Standard process. So my next slide is why become a Charter Standard club, and that's explained in a short video. Hopefully it's not too loud for clubs, so hopefully this also runs.
So why should adult clubs become Charter Standard? Well, they attract and retain players every season. They value and support their volunteers. They provide better organised football and have access to better facilities. Plus, help and support from county FAs means Charter Standard clubs are well prepared. So there are fewer fixtures cancelled and fewer matches abandoned. All of this makes adult Charter Standard clubs proud. Still not sure? Access to benefits from the FA means Charter Standard clubs are better prepared and equipped to meet the challenges facing adult football every season. Be part of an elite group of clubs delivering the highest standards in England. The FA Charter Standard is open to all clubs who want to be the best place for adults to play and enjoy football. There's no limit on size. It's open for single team clubs through to football hubs. The criteria to become Charter Standard is designed for adult clubs, and support is available to make the whole process simple. So, are you ready to start your club's journey to becoming proud to be the FA Charter Standard accredited today?
Okay. hopefully everyone heard that. And it went through some of the things. Adult charter standard clubs report high growth of players, more players in their squad, which also leads to fewer games being cancelled, fewer abandoned games, and really it's something proud to aspire to, and it's a quite markable, well-run club. So more reasons to become charter standard are some of the benefits that you would receive as a charter standard club. So benefits of charter standard. There are three real key ones that I'm going to cover. The first one's equipment. As a new charter standard club, you will be sent Nike Strike footballs. So for adult clubs, you'd get 4 Nike Strike footballs every single season that you are charter standard. So what we'll discuss today is how to attain charter standard. Each year, you would then complete what's called the annual health check. It's a reduced process where you renew your commitment becoming charter standard. So you don't have to go through the same process every single year, which is a question I get quite a lot regarding adult charter standard. You do this process once, and then every single year you complete the annual health check, at which point you'll be sent your equipment for that year. Now, you would also, as an incentive, be sent a equipment voucher if you renew your annual health check before a certain date each year. So this season it was October 1st. Normally it's the start of the season, which is kind of September 1st. It was pushed about a month later this year because of, unfortunately, some of the things that COVID delayed the season. So when you apply to become charter standard, you get sent Nike football kit, Nike footballs, as well as a few other things. But every single year that you complete your annual health check, you would receive £100 voucher to Kit Locker. That can be used for kit, for more equipment, for basically anything on their website, their charter standard website. You can apply that. You can buy extra things as well, and then the £100 will just come off. If you don't apply, if you don't complete your annual health check before that date, then you wouldn't have access to that for that year. However, next year, that also would then be available again. So that's generally communicated well in advance, so clubs can best make use of that incentive that's there for renewing charter standard year on year. The second advantage of becoming charter standard is access to funding. Now, what I would tell you is this season, funding pots are limited. There won't be any Grow the Game this year. There won't be any Stay in the Game this year run by the Football Foundation. The two funding options right there are internally run funding pots held by Berks and Bucks FA. Now, are non-charter standard clubs able to apply for those funds? The answer is yes, they can. But we are anticipating this year, because of lack of funding pots and other funding opportunities, that these funding pots will be oversubscribed. There will be more applications than we have funds to give out. So each of them will have a scoring matrix. And if we get 2 fairly similar applications from similar locations within Berks and Bucks, aiming at creating or retaining similar teams, then one of the deciding factors may come down to charter standard. So having charter standard would hold you in better stead. That is not to guarantee that a non-charter standard team wouldn't receive the fund, but if it was weighed up and it came down to 2 clubs, it would maybe come down to whether one is charter standard, signaling that they're a well-run club. So I want to touch base very quickly on the Butterfly Fund. This fund is a brand new fund that will be opening on December 1st. However, because you've signed in, I want to give you a little sneak peek about what that fund is. So I'm just going to leave my presentation quickly. Just to open up this spreadsheet, hopefully again you can see it. Now, the Butterfly Fund is effectively clubs completing 3 tasks. Now, it is open to Charter Standard clubs, and it is open for non-Charter Standard clubs too. The difference between it is non-Charter Standard clubs will have to create one more task, will have to complete one more task. So in total, a Charter Standard club will complete 4 tasks, and they would receive £250 on completion of all 4 tasks. As you can see, for a non-Charter Standard club, the first mandatory task would be to attain that status. So at the end of it, this fund is essentially only open for Charter Standard clubs, because once you've completed it, every single club will be Charter Standard. Following that, clubs then would complete any 3 of these tasks. So there's a lot of tasks here. Some are easier than others. So you could sign up to become a BBFA Disability Pledge Club. It's a very easy thing to do, but actually has a large impact. Another thing you could do is have all of your named coaches complete the FA Playmaker course. So there are things that are very achievable for adult clubs to do that don't have a massive time commitment, don't have a massive monetary commitment. And because you've signed up for today, we would hopefully assume that Charter Standard is of interest to you. So that would be one of your tasks as well, and then create 3 of any of the other potential tasks. Once you complete it, £250 will be given to the club. So I just wanted to let you know that that will be opening on December 1st. I will share this information as well as the presentation, so you can have a little bit of an advanced look about potential tasks that you could complete. There will be a nice slick 1-pager of this created. It's currently in design and be ready before December 1st, but this is currently what I'm using. So to go back to my slide. So yeah, that's 2 of the benefits of becoming Charter Standard. The third is access to digital assets. So once you complete the Charter Standard process and you're awarded it, you'd receive an email from the FA welcoming you to the Charter Standard program, and also a link to download all of these assets. These are just a selection of them. There are lots, different colors, backgrounds. They could be added to any social media content that you have as a club. They could be added to any flyers, any emails that you put out as a Charter Standard club. Once you've access to these digital assets, you can use them on any promotion, any communication, and any social media platform that you want. And this is just a selection of some of them. So hopefully that's gone on to just touched on what the program is, why you might look to become Charter Standard, and some of the benefits of it. The meat of today's presentation is on how to apply, how to become Charter Standard. I've split this up into 3 sections. The first that I call criteria are 3 things to have in place before potentially applying. So these are the first things that I would look at as the lead officer when reviewing an application. The first one is that your club is affiliated to BBFA. So you would need to do that not only to apply to become Charter Standard, but also to complete your annual health check season on season. You must also have a minimum of 1 team playing in an FA sanctioned league. So like the video mentioned, it's open to large clubs, but it's also open to those 1 team clubs as well. The third thing you should have in place is clubs must have a bank account set up in their club's name. Now, there is an exception for this. If you are a 1-team club, it is not expected that you would have a bank account. That only comes in if you have 2 or more clubs, 2 or more teams. So if any 1-team club out there, don't worry, you don't have to set up a bank account yet. But if you were ever to add a second club, so a second team, or more, then during the annual health check, I would ask you for that information. But just to set up as a Charter Standard club, you wouldn't have to do it. If you have more than 2 teams currently, it would be expected that you would have a bank account set up in your name. So that's the criteria. That's kind of the first stage to make sure that you had in place before applying for a Charter Standard. The second thing is the documentation. There are certain documents that I would need to see, have emailed to me upon applying for the Charter Standard process. About an hour ago, I sent you an email with lots of attachments. This goes into some of the documents that you are seeing on that page here. So the first thing is an application form. I sent you that as part of that email before the meeting. It's a very simple form, but it is something that I need you to apply. You need to fill out and send in. The reason for that is there is a checklist just to make sure that you have everything that you're saying that you have. It also has a declaration that you would sign to make sure that you understand the annual health check process. So, as I mentioned before, it's a shortened version of applying for Charter Standard each season. Generally, it opens up at affiliation and you would need to complete it by March. However, to make best use of those incentives, this season we were asking clubs to complete their annual health check by October. So if that was the same model for next year, you would apply any time between now and the end of the season, but you would then complete the annual health check before October 1st, 2021. However, the annual health check process would be open until March 2022. And that would renew your Charter Standard status for the following season. So that's the application form. There are 4 then club documents we would need to see. The club rules / constitution. So generally clubs may have these set up themselves. However, there was one form that I sent on there that could be adopted by clubs. A club equality policy, a club safeguarding policy, and a club planning document. I sent you all of these, which you can go through and simply add your name and then adopt it as a club. Now, the club safeguarding policy is, I've only added that because you would only have to have that in place if your adult club had any players aged 16 or 17. In the eyes of the FA and BBFA, 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds are still classed as youth players, though they are able to play adult football. I know I played football at that age, but they are deemed youth players and would still have to be covered by a club safeguarding policy. One of the other things that needs to be demonstrated is that you are well run. And one of the things that a well-run club would do is meet regularly with your committee. So I would need to see evidence of a recent committee meeting, so the minutes of that, and also your most recent AGM. So effectively, I need to see 2 minutes. If your last meeting was an AGM, I would then need to see the committee meetings of the meeting before the AGM. And generally clubs meet monthly, but that's not by any means a requirement. I know 1-team clubs, sometimes that's quite a lot. So generally clubs can meet every couple of months. We just need to see evidence of when you meet and your minutes. Now, what do the minutes look like? I've seen every different format of minutes. I've seen really in-depth ones. I've seen ones where actions are put into bullet points, who's present. Generally, they're the things that we're looking for. Who was present at the meeting, when the meeting was, any actions, any things that were discussed, date of the next meeting. The AGM would also then have to go into election, committee member appointments and elections of those people to those positions. And also potentially the last thing that is on that slide, which is a financial statement. Now, again, I've seen these presented to me in lots of different ways. I've seen clubs send me bank statements. I don't need to see bank statements, but what I do need to see is an annual accounts. So generally, they're added at the end of an AGM minute meetings, where the treasurer may go through your ingoings, your outgoings, and generally how much money the club has in the account. That can be added as a separate document. It can be added as part of a committee meeting minutes. It can be a bank statement if you want to provide that. That would also cover the evidence for a bank account in the club's name. Really, all we want to see is if the club is well managed in terms of finance. Again, there is a kite mark that we're looking for, and one of those is a well-run, sustainable club. If your financial statement was to say that you weren't potentially, you've got quite a few outgoings compared to your ingoings, then we may work with you to help achieve that. And then once we're happy with, obviously, those annual accounts, then we can award charter standard status. So don't feel you need to go into a massive amount of details, but you do have to show some form of annual accounts. So the final kind of stage is qualifications. So adult clubs have to have the following qualifications in place. So every team has a coach with an in-date FA first aid qualification. If the named coach is also a registered player, you must then have a second first aider. So then there must be 2 qualified first aiders with that team. Now, the reason for you adding a second first aider to a team, if you have a player, if they're registered as a player, is simply the case if that player is the person that is hurt on a field, then the second person will be able to administer first aid. If that person is not a registered player, you only have to have 1 first aider named for a team. Now, the second qualification is if you have an under 18 player registered within your club, all named coaches must have an in-date DBS. Now, I want to dive into that a little bit further. If you have multiple teams, 3, maybe 4 adult teams, you must have all named coaches for that particular team. For example, if you have 4 teams, but only one of them has under 18 players registered with it, then the coaches for that one team must have an in-date DBS. And it's not just one coach, it would be anyone named towards that team. So if you have 2 or 3 coaches for a team, all of them would have to have an in-date DBS. I will just quickly, before I go on to DBS process, tell you how I would check qualifications. I use the qualification record. Now, this is a qualification record for AFC Denham. Now, this typically is what an adult-only club might look like. They have 1 team and they have 4 individuals who are named as coaches. Now, I access this qualification just in case you're unaware. I just going to come out of the presentation quickly. I access this through Whole Game System. So this is my Whole Game System. Hopefully you all have access to this, and this, once you log on, is the screen that you're greeted with. To find that qualification record, you simply click on your role, and you could be secretary, you could be club chairman, you could be treasurer, or in my case, you could be the charter standard coordinator. You would then click on team officials once the screen changes. And once again, it uploads. Might take a couple of seconds, but then it would go onto there. And you simply click this button here, team officials qualification record, and it will download in the bottom left-hand corner. I was pointing to it. You can't see myself pointing to it. You would then be able to download that and view it as a PDF document. So once you click on that, I'm not going to click on it just because it has some personal information. So it will list your fan number. It will also list the coaches and their date of birth. It will also name any manager or first aider assigned to that club. So I will look at that, and I will see that that club has 3 first aiders. They also have a 4th coach there. I'll come back to why that person is listed up there, and mainly, John, because it is the question you've just asked. My next slide is COVID-19 has impacted on the FA and the county FA's ability to offer face-to-face education. So whilst long-term plans are being made to offer alternative sustainable delivery models, it is necessary to make temporary changes for the 2020-21 season. So you're absolutely right, John. We're not currently offering face-to-face qualifications. That is why an interim criteria has been put in place to still allow clubs to apply for Charter Standard. So hopefully Rich is still there.
Still here.
I'm now going to hand over to Rich, who is our guru on education, to go through the interim criteria and how clubs who are currently potentially non-compliant can become compliant whilst not attending face-to-face qualifications. So Rich, I'm going to hand over to you and move on to, I put this slide in the right order for you this time.
Thank you.
I didn't do it on the last.
Thanks, Ryan. Good evening, everyone as well. Yeah, just to provide a bit of an update then around the education programme. So as you can see in front of you there on the slide, as we know, pandemic really affected us from mid-March. Obviously affected courses as well. So we haven't run any courses since that time, and the FA education team provided an update last week, which is accessible on our website on the news stories there. But a snapshot of it is the level 1 course, Safeguarding Children Workshop, and Introduction to First Aid in Football courses will be relaunched and redeveloped in April 2021. So we'll go through it just a moment, those interim measures that John has mentioned a minute ago. But the FA education team are undergoing a 4-year strategy. So this will be the start of that. Anyone who's got any club story who's got coaches who may be halfway through a course that was impacted by the pandemic, we will be in contact in early December to let them know how to complete that. But if we just go to the next slide, John, I'll just talk about those measures in place. So first aid, so as we know with the adult teams, first aid is required to be assigned to the team. So while there's no first aid course at the moment, interim measures in place are the FA's concussion guidelines and sudden cardiac arrest. So these are online modules, courses if you like, accessible for free via the FA Learning website. Really, again, massively important subjects and topics. They're not topics that are actually covered in great detail within the current first aid course, which is why the FA decided a couple of years ago to put them online. So yeah, really, I've done both. I think John has as well. Really excellent learning and important topics as well. So they're there they're accessible anytime to anybody, and they are also while there's no first aid courses taking place at the moment, you can use these modules once they're completed. Then that individual will be assigned to the team, and your Charter Standards application can proceed based on that information.
Just to move back quickly, Rich.
Yeah.
So for example, this club here, they have 4 named coaches. This bottom coach, it won't show up on his qualification record. However, that coach there has undertaken those 2 online courses. Whilst you won't be able to see it on your side, we can go into that person's fan number and see that they've completed those courses. So whilst they didn't need to do this because they already had 3 coaches with that first aid qualification, they added a 4th. He did the online. So in fact, they've actually got 4 first aiders with that team because he did the online courses. Now, the reason, whilst they were also, this was actually my most recent adult club who were awarded the qualification. they don't have any under 18 players. So using player registration, I can go onto that club, check the ages of the players, and can see that they don't have any players age 16 or 17. So they have all the criteria in place to be accepted for charter standards. So just to cover that. Sorry, Rich.
Cool. Yeah, and there's also individuals who do complete it can access the certificate through PDF, so they can share that with.
They can send that in to me as well, but we can check by their fan number as well.
Excellent, thank you. And just best practice really. So as we saw on an earlier slide, level 1 course currently isn't available, but it is being relaunched in the spring in April. But the FA had already had plans to introduce the FA Playmaker course earlier this year. Came out in the summer, so it's like an introductory course for any new volunteer or coach who are looking to start their coaching journey. So really great entry point as a starting point as well. It's accessible for everybody. It is free, and John, as John said earlier, these slides are going out, so the links, you don't need to write down the URLs on that. But so this course at the moment in time is an interim measure. So for qualified coaches, again, just best practice, decent course. Done it myself, very good. Takes about 4.5 hours. So you
don't have to do that all in one slot, do you?
So you go in, you come in, do a module or half a module, go away, come back in a couple of days, and do the rest of it. So it's at your leisure. Next slide, safeguarding, again, best practice. So if you do have anyone at your club with the Safeguarding Children workshop, or if you have any if you have any 16 or 17-year-olds in your adult team, this obviously is a requirement. So if that Safeguarding Children workshop has expired, you can renew, or the individual can renew online for free by clicking that link again once you get the slides. So 2 3-hour workshop online, again, can be completed at their leisure. But yes, it's obviously a very good and informative course. And also, while there's no face-to-face workshops for maybe someone who hasn't had a qualification before for safeguarding, the FA have introduced the Safeguarding for All online course. So this is actually taken out of the FA Playmaker course, which is obviously included in that. But this is a standalone course itself. So again, very informative, all online, and this again is provided as a interim measure. So if you did have 16, 17-year-olds in your adult team, and the coach completes the Safeguarding for All work online course, then your application for charter standard can proceed based on that.
Yeah, it is best practice though, so it's not a requirement, but we wanted to share with you that they can do some CPD on both of those subjects if they wish.
Cool. And then just finally, as a club, if you wanted to be kept up to date with FA courses through Berks and Bucks FA, or coaches want to, then you can register your interest. So rather than having to keep looking at our website or social media channels, if you head to our website, you can register your interest in all of the courses that we have provided prior, and we will let you know via email and future developments. And I think there's just one more. Yeah, so it's just ongoing coach development, just an opportunity to just provide some links and share some information to your volunteers and coaches. So there's the FA Boot Room, so website dedicated to coach development. So lots of learning resources, interviews, training sessions, etc. So head to the Boot Room. We had our own online coaching program during lockdown earlier this year. So we had over 40 webinars looking at a variety of topics, and classic matches, etc. So head to that or our webpage. And finally, we will be doing our coach development program locally, starting hopefully, fingers crossed, in January for the duration of the season. So just keep an eye on our website and social media channels. And I think I've got one more, John. And just to promote, in case you weren't aware, so we have the Grassroots Football Coach podcast, which is obviously one of those, what it says on the tin kind of thing. So for grassroots football coaches, really, just to listen, another resource to develop as a coach. Our host there is Mark Rivers, who is a former FA county coach developer for the county. So he speaks to coaches at grassroots level all the way through to the pro game. So really interesting chats, and yeah, lots can be taken out of that.
Okay, thanks, Rich. So once the club has those first criteria in place, has all the relevant documentation in place, and lastly have the qualifications in place, then you'd be ready to apply. To do that, simply send all the documents to BBFA, and that's my email address, so you can send it to me directly. And once the application is made, the following 4 things happen. BBFA will review all the submitted evidence. That's generally myself. I review it, and then working with the other members of the development team, we just review the documents, make sure, double check that all of the things that are required are in place. I will then ask for 3 pieces of feedback from 3 different areas. The first thing I will do is contact your leagues. So whichever leagues your teams play in. Now, you may have multiple teams in multiple leagues. I will contact all of them. And I asked basically one question. And that question is there any reason why I cannot award charter standard to this club? And I've never had anything other than, yeah, absolutely, go for it. But one of the things that we look for is obviously that feedback from your participating league. The next thing I would do is contact Chris Penny, who is our Football Investigations Officer. And one of the key things about charter standard is clubs that maintain respect and the respect code of conduct. So the next piece of feedback that I asked for is regarding the club's discipline. And again, I asked the same question: is there any reason why this club cannot be awarded charter standard? Now, these are generally very serious discipline reasons would be why a club might not be awarded discipline. There is a matrix, and different discipline things are awarded points, and there'd have to be a certain number of points before a club would either not be awarded charter standard or have it revoked. So it's quite serious matters that would have to be resolved, and any suspensions would have to be resolved. But for yellow cards or the odd red card, as long as it wasn't one of these issues that had been reverted to the discipline team at the Central FA, it would be accepted. Finally, I would get in touch with our designated safeguarding officer. Hopefully you saw the announcement. That's Natasha, who's recently come into post a couple of weeks ago. And again, I asked her the same question: is there any reason why I wouldn't be able to award charter standards to this club? And there she'll be looking at welfare issues. Again, are there any welfare issues that are currently unresolved? Again, would be more on the serious side, things that have been reverted to the welfare safeguarding team of the FA. There'd be the kind of things that may be maybe a reason why the charter standard would be delayed for any reason. And we'd worked with you to resolve those issues if there were any. And once all of the people then say that they're happy to award charter standard, the final thing is to award it. I then award charter standard status. It's confirmed by the FA, generally the same day. It's normally very, very quick. Then the timelines, you would then be able to see in your Holgate system that you'd been awarded charter standard. So once you log in, it should say charter standard, congratulations. And 2 to 3 weeks later, it used to be under 2 weeks, but now it's crept to about 3 weeks because of the backlog of applications and other things, unfortunately, that have cropped up because of COVID. You would then receive a welcome pack from the FA. So the welcome email will go into detail about what you need to do next. So generally that's provide an address so we can send you the equipment, and we can send you your certificate, and we can send you a plaque that you can use to either put on any facilities you have or just keep with you to show that you're an FA Charter Standard club. It will also give you a link to your digital assets. and generally that can take up to 3 weeks, but potentially that's sped up a little bit as we're hopefully getting through that backlog. So in essence, that is the charter standard process. Hopefully that has gone into some of the details about why to become it, what it is, why, how to submit, and then also what happens once you've submitted as well. And hopefully we've also given you a little bit of information about the education and the qualifications. So before I end the presentation, I will open it up for any questions. Feel free to add them into the chat function, or feel free to unmute yourself. Rich, is there any questions? I can't see the chat function, so I'm going to ask you if any questions have come in during the presentation.
Just John's question, which I'll just answer, I suppose, again. So he's just to remind people they may not see it. So John says, bearing in mind that the FA first aid courses are currently suspended, you will accept other first aid qualifications, etc., wet related ones. So other than the 2 online modules, John, that we talked about, the online concussion and sudden cardiac arrest, there is actual an accepted medical qualifications outside of the FA, which are then accepted by the FA, but only at the renewable stage. So if someone's first aid expired and they've done a specific course, then that can be allocated to that individual's record. What I would say is if you do have anyone in that situation, just drop us an email and we can inform you then of which qualifications do qualify. But yeah, most of them are sports specific. So, but we can provide you that list if you need it. Hopefully that answers your question. We do have a question from Rob. Who says, do you have a link or info on the DBS check process?
I'll happily add that to the email that I send out tomorrow morning. Just to quickly explain the DBS process, because a lot of our adult clubs might not have a welfare officer. You might not be set up to verify documents. So the process is essentially complete an online section and then have your documents verified. So the link that I will send you, hopefully you can see this, will take you to this page. In the email, I will give you that link and also the information you need to log on to the DBS process. So when you get to this page, you need to register. That's the first page. I use this information from my end to go in and verify documents. So once you register, on the email that I'll send you, it will have an organisation pin. You enter your name, you enter your email address, and you confirm it. It will go to a next step. It'll ask for a secret word. I think there may be another information that again will be, I think it's just a secret word that you have to add on. That will also be on the email that I send you tomorrow. You simply add that. You go through the process. Now, the important things about the online section is you need to select 3 documents that you are going to bring to the verification evening. Now, those documents that you select here have to be the same documents that you bring to the verification evening. Otherwise, we'll have to start the process again. Now, if you have a welfare officer at your club who is currently set up to verify documents, it's a lot easier. Once you complete this section, you show your documents to that person and they will complete the document verification from their end. For youth clubs, that's generally what happens because they all have to have a welfare officer. As an adult club, you don't have to have a welfare officer, so you might not have someone who's set up to verify documents. So once you register online, at the end of it, you will see an email to say, I have completed my online section. Please get in touch with this person to organise the process of verifying documents, and it must be done in person. So currently they're suspended. Rich, I don't know if you've seen anything, but I'm guessing they're going to resume on the 2nd of December.
You'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So you will then be sent basically a link to sign up for a face-to-face document verification. They were, before lockdown, happening every week in various locations. Rich, which location did you have?
Abingdon, yeah.
Yeah, I do Milton Keynes, so I'm based in the north of the region, so I do that. Ellen Hopkins was doing Wickham. We had Lisa Ben going out to Thatcham, Newbury. John was doing Reading, and I think someone was also covering Slough. So they're the general populous areas. They were being run every single week. You simply sign up for a date and a location that's suitable for you. You bring your documents. Hopefully there's no issues. You simply show your documents, we verify them, we complete our section on here. DBS is £10 for a volunteer, which you can pay there, or we can send an email for you to then, once you go home, complete at home at your own pace. How long do DBSs take, Rich?
No more than 2 weeks, really, straightforward ones. Yeah.
So generally, it then gets sent off. It's checked. Some regions are a little bit slower. I think 10% of verifications are chosen at random for an enhanced check. That can take a little bit longer. But again, generally, they don't take too long. Hopefully that's awarded, and then that would show up on your qualification record, which would be there. It would, if I go onto this slide, where it says enhanced DBS check, it will have an expiry date similar to this date for 3 years' time, and you renew it every 3 years.
Cool, thanks, John.
Other questions?
Rob's just typing, so we'll just see what he says there. He's also asked, as you can probably see there, John, now. So for those who might not see, it says also, is it possible and how can you transfer an existing DBS? So you can, should I say it's John?
Yeah, go for it. You know better than I do.
Well, I think so. You can transfer it over, but it does come at an administration cost, which I believe is actually higher than the administration cost for a new one. But yeah, we can certainly look into that for you. So if you do have anybody, Rob, who's at the club who needs that transferring over, or just look at the possibility of doing it, just let us know, and then we can come back to you with the exact figure and process.
Anybody else? You feel free to unmute yourself, and you can ask the question. Okay, I think we're coming to the end. So, if I know one of the questions that you may have, that basically what to do next. I would advise clubs, given that there is not a lot of funding out there, and as a club that potentially is looking to apply for Charter Standard this season, have a look at the BBFA Butterfly Fund, because if there are 3 additional tasks that you think that you can achieve as a club, that will give you 250 clubs, £250 to help with the running of your clubs in the future. So once you apply for those, once you complete those 4 tasks, we would send you £250, and that can be used towards equipment, towards coaching qualifications, match referee fees, league affiliation fees for the future. So I would highly recommend having a look at it. As you've logged into tonight, you will be able to apply before December 1st. So you've basically got a week head start on everybody else. And we want to open it up for clubs who want to attain Charter Standard Club. That is one of the main reasons that fund is there, to help you, maybe incentivize you to attain that status, and also at the same time maybe develop different areas of your club. Just to add on the Butterfly Fund, which if I open up here, hopefully you can still see that, there is a supporting officer that can help you with each of the tasks. So no surprise, the Charter Standard, I'm the supporting officer. To maybe highlight some of Rich's, every unqualified named coach assigned to a team to complete the FA Online Playmaker. Rich is there to help you support how to do that. And that goes into lots of different ones. Some of these won't be relevant to you. So adult only clubs aren't necessarily looking to start an under-6 mini kickers. It's fine, you just don't select that one. But you may be looking to sign up to the FA BBFA Disability Pledge Project. Just to highlight again, that's one of mine. It's very easy to do. You don't have to start a disability team. That's not what that's there for. It basically is to help raise awareness of other disability clubs in and around the area. So we have a disability club directory, big map of BBFA that highlights all the disability clubs. We ask you to share that on your website if you have a website, on your Facebook if you have Facebook, or Twitter, and we ask you to share that with your members. So that simply could be an email that you send to your players, to your coaches, saying, have a look at this. These are all the disability clubs within the region. You may know someone on your street, a neighbour, a sibling, you may have a child with a disability that wants to get involved with football, but for some reason didn't know about their local disability clubs. There's 75 disability clubs within our region. And it's I can't tell you the amount of players who have been linked to a disability club because of this program. And it's very easy to do. And it costs no money, and it takes not a lot of time. There are other things you could do. Maybe name a welfare officer, especially if you've got children under 18 in your club. That would be a really good thing to do. So there's lots of things. Natasha will be able to help you do that. So I just wanted to highlight that before ending tonight's presentation. Just lastly, if you didn't get that before, that's my email address and my contact telephone number. Even though we're working from home, that number will come through to my mobile. Rich, I'm guessing the same thing for your number there as well, and email. I generally would go to Rich with any qualification questions. Generally, I would just forward it to him anyway. However, if there are no more questions, I'm going to thank you for your time and let you get on with your evening with 3 minutes to spare before 9 o'clock.